Ready?
Yes.
Okay. I am Aryeh Halivni, along with Peleg Levy, sitting here with Paul Kaye in Queens, New York, November 29th, 2017. Thank you very much. Why don't we start from the beginning? Why don't you tell me where your family's from, your parents are from, grandparents, if you know.
Yes. I didn't know my grandparents. At least I don't remember them now. I knew when I was younger. I keep forgetting things now. But my father came from Odessa, Russia, and my mother came from Lvov, Poland. And they escaped quite out of Europe, came to live here. And I was born in Manhattan, and we moved up to the Bronx.
When were you born?
I was born June 6th, D-Day, 1927.
Just a minute, please. Okay, please.
Sure, it's a Pope, is there?
Okay.
I am Aryeh Halivni, along with Peleg Levy, sitting here with Paul Kaye in Queens, November 29th, 2017. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about your family, your parents, where they came from, where they were born.
Okay. My father was born in Odessa, Russia, came to America, and my mother was born in Lvov, Poland, and she came to America, and they met here. I was born in Manhattan. We lived there for around 4 months on the Lower East Side, all the Jewish people were, and then my father, we moved up to the Bronx, and I lived the rest of my life up in the Bronx.
Well, when were you born?
I was born June 6th, that's D-Day, June 6th, 1927. If you want to do your arithmetic, I turned 90 this year. My folks had family. I was born in Manhattan, and I went to school in the Bronx. And when I finished public school, the war broke out, World War II. And
What'd your parents do?
well, my father passed away when I was 6 years. I think I was 8 years old. I don't remember. I think about 8 years old. My father when I lost my dad, and my mother passed away the day I was discharged from the American service. That's right after World War II. When I came home from service, she was gone that day. Yeah, it was a bummer, but it's all behind me, you know. And my father was a very kind, wonderful man, and my mother kept a kosher home, and she made sure that I was going to shul and that I studied. And my uncle made me bar mitzvah at 12 years old. Of course, I was a Yesema, I was an orphan. And according to our religion, if you're a Yesema, you become a man a year earlier. So I was bar mitzvah when I was 12. I started my whole life different. Very funny. And I was going to shul at the time, you know, every day we were in shul. I finished high school in New York, in the city.
Which high school?
Chelsea High School. It's in Lower Manhattan. It's still there, I think. And it was a vocational school which taught me to be an engineer, automobile engineer. The school, in those days, we were recruited into what they called the State Guard. That was the first my military experience. The State Guard was something brand new because the National Guard becomes the Army in a war. And we're at war now. World War II was hot and heavy. And I remember Pearl Harbor when we were attacked, so I was working in a bowling alley setting pins. And I'm just trying to remember, I became a full sergeant in the State Guard, and we were trained as infantrymen. I was a kid in high school. And when I graduated high school, I enlisted in the American forces because we were at war, and I want to do my bit for my country. And I joined the Marines, and they wouldn't give my mother an allotment. So I went into the Navy instead. And that's how I wound up in the American Navy. We were in World War II. I was an amphibious sailor. I was trained to run small craft because I came out of a vocational high school. And I was stationed in the American Navy in World War II. I was heading for the Pacific for the invasion of Japan. And the Japanese heard I was coming, so they surrendered. And that was, you know, they dropped the atom bomb. And the atom bomb changed the whole thing around President Truman. And when I came home,
Did you ship out overseas?
I had my orders, but I never left because
So you were supposed to go from San Francisco?
I was going from Norfolk to go across country,
Uh-huh.
you know, and then go over. But they stopped me and they changed my orders. My original enlistment into the American Navy was duration of the war plus 9 months or 2-year enlistment. I remember that vividly. And I served duration of the war and 9 months. And I never went overseas because of that. And they discharged me early. Of course, they would get rid of, all the people that they didn't need, I guess. And I was going for an invasion. I was, I was hurt during the training program for Japan. I got hurt. My right ankle got hurt. I saved the guy from getting crushed between the two boats. I put my body underneath and got my leg caught between the two boats. And I was in the hospital. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm getting along fine. But I wound up in the American Navy, going out past, coming home. I lost my mother the day I was discharged, and she passed away as I was coming home from the Navy, from Little Creek, Virginia. It's right outside Norfolk. It's an amphibious base down there. I came home, and I was getting ready to go to college. Of course, you get what they call a GI Bill in those days. And I was going to MIT as an engineering student. Next thing I know, I get a phone call one day. And the phone call says, Paul, I was working in a record shop in the Bronx. You know what records were. And I'm working in a record shop, and the phone rings. I say, okay, radio? He said, yeah. Would you like to help your people? So I look around the store. I says, what are you talking about? He says, if you want to help your people, be on the corner of 39th Street, Lexington Avenue, the southeast corner, 4 o'clock this Thursday, a man with a black leather jacket will walk by. If he puts a newspaper under his arm, follow him. If he puts the newspaper into the wastepaper basket there, leave right away, you're being followed. Click. And you get a phone call like that, it's a joke. It's a gag, I figured one of my buddies I'd play ball with, and I was a ball player. I worked out with the Brooklyn Dodgers, that's another story. But I asked everybody, I was living with my sister, she thought I was nuts and I could see. So I was stood on the corner of Lexington Avenue. A guy with a 4 o'clock shop walks by with a black leather jacket, puts a newspaper on his arm, walks around the corner. I follow him, and the name of I remember this forever, Palestinian Students Lounge. That was the name. It's the B'nai Zion building today. They just sold it this year. First time in, 60, 70. So it was the Palestinian Students Lounge. I walk in behind him. He sits down at the desk. He says, Paul, we know you're an engineer. You sail small boats. You're going to sail small craft between Palestine and Cyprus. If the British catch you, they will hang you. I said, let's go. The next day, I was in Baltimore, and there were 2 ships down there. I showed you the pictures of them. One was the President Warfield, and that became the famous Exodus. And tied up next to her, my ship, which I decided to go on, was the SS Tradewinds, an old Coast Guard cutter. And we were going to take both of them across the Atlantic. So I became a fireman on the SS Tradewinds. Later on in life, I say the next month or two, a couple of months, she became the Hatikva, and the President Walker became the famous Exodus.
What year was this? When was this?
47. It wasn't a state yet. We were just trying to get a state then. And people were fighting for it. In fact, I can tell you later how I worked with this Father Grauer. He was a priest who sailed on the Exodus secretly to tell the American and the UN how important it was to save our people. And there I was, working to save my people. I
want to take a step back for a
Sure.
second. Growing up, did you hear about Zionism in your home? Did you?
Well, my mother was 100% kosher. We had a Jewish kosher home. And we used to say on Pesach night, next year in Jerusalem. And I didn't know what that meant, but I was not a Zionist because I always knew we have to have our own land. I always felt that, especially after the Holocaust. Forget about it. But never again, like we say, you know. Yeah, I grew up going to shul, laying tefillin every morning, davening every day davening, yeah, I'm trying to remember. And we came from a kosher background, my mother.
Right, but still trying to, think that you're going to go.
Oh,
and
no.
Somebody calls and says, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight for my people. That's a big...
But I did.
Yeah.
And that was the bottom line, you know. I helped my people. That was my ambition, to work for my people. What else is it?
So, okay, so now you sign up and you're going to be... Did you have to sign anything? Did you have to commit to anything?
Yeah,
You're gonna...
I have the papers. They gave us not fake, but paper from Panamanian. I think the Panamanian or Honduranian, one or the other. I took a couple of ships. Later on, I'll tell you, I took another ship. It's the whole story. One was Honduranian, one was Panamanian. I forget which is which, going back a lot of years. Going back, 70 years this year. 70 years. And it was the end of 47, and the ambition was to bring the people out of the Holocaust. They were living like our people. They were living like pigs in Europe. They had no place to go. So they were going to Palestine, someday their homeland, which was a dream. It was a dream. And we made it happen. Yeah.
So you get to the ship, and was the ship ready to go? Did you have to
No,
work?
we had to fix it. In fact, it's the first time I saw a miracle. We took her across the Atlantic, and the average speed of that ship, the top speed, the average speed was 12 knots. That's about 18 miles an hour. And when we arrived in the Azores, across the Atlantic, we hit a tail end of a hurricane. The Exodus couldn't make it. She turned back into Norfolk. She was taking on too much water. We were being pushed across the Atlantic, and a miracle, you know. We came into the Azores for fuel, and the captain announced, average speed across the Atlantic, 12 knots. Unheard of. So we were all, yay, we were happy young men, and I had my Navy experience, so we get the ship ready to go, and we can't get fuel because the British chopped off our supplies. They heard about us. And I'm walking on the fuel pier in the Azores with my chief engineer, Hy Braverman, and we were walking across the thing, and I said, Chief, I said, oy vey, what are we going to do? With that, a man runs over to me and says in Yiddish to me, Ostike zukt oy vey, you say oy vey? I said, yeah. He says, what's Tees to do? What are you doing here? I says, in Stafford and Shaman, we need oil and fuel. He says, come with me. He walks us to the office, stamps out papers, and loads the ship with fuel. You believe in it? There it is.
Who was this guy?
Never saw him again, didn't know who it was. Must be an angel. Susan called, my wife Susan, God bless her, she calls out an angel. Must have been an angel, came down and put fuel on our ship. And we set sail for Europe. We wound up in Lisbon. And we spent a month in Lisbon outfitting the ship, the back, to carry people. The ship could carry maybe 100 people, maybe 100 people. We finished outfitting it for 1,500. The Exodus had like 4,000, and we had 1,500 on ours. And we picked them up.
How many guys were you?
There was 29 of us, to be exact. The crew was 29.
Did you know any of them before?
None.
None.
Just Abby Rosenberg, we became very friendly. Hal Feinberg. Well, he was from Brooklyn, so we knew each other. The chief engineer was going out with a girl in the Bronx on my street. So we knew everybody together. So when you get together on a new ship, the chief brings out schnapps and we celebrate together. The first night that was in Baltimore. We had the ships hidden in Baltimore with fake flags on them, and they paid the governments for the flags and the papers. I have my papers. I can show them to you.
Were most of the other guys also World War II veterans?
Well, I would say guys like Hal Katz, I think he won 2 Medals of Honor, and he's in Israel today. He's still around, and he's a good friend of Murray Greenfield's, who you know. And Murray and Hal always been good buddies, and I've been their friend. We did certain things together in Israel itself when it became a state. Just before it became a state, in '47, I was in the city. I don't want to skip around and tell you all kind of crazy things. But we were almost put in jail by the British. Murray was captured. We got him out, snuck him out. Otherwise, he goes to jail. And I wound up on the ship in Lisbon, and we outfitted the ship in Lisbon, and we set sail for Europe to pick up our people. And if you go to Haifa today, they have a museum there, a nautical museum that has a replica of these ships. You can see how the people slid their belongings, all they owned, into these sleds and got on the ship that way. We helped them in. And that's how we got our people. First I went to Marseille to pick up this priest secretly to get him down to the Exodus, because we sailed back down to the Exodus down in southern Italy. I never forget when we left Lisbon to go to Europe to get our people, and we outfitted the ship. The captain from Israel, underground, there was no Israel, Palestine, came to us and said, get out of port because the British are onto you and they're going to seize the ship. So we couldn't pick up the anchor for some reason, evidently, because I was sitting on the deck and watching as we were leaving, and I see the lights going out all over Lisbon. We were dragging the electric wires with our ship in the harbor. I never forgot that. So I had to go up on the front of the ship and fix the windlass to bring up the anchor, and then we were able to leave. But we pulled out the electric wires from Lisbon. I never forgot that. But anyway, we wound up going towards Marseille, picking up the priest secretly.
The priest was John
Grauer.
Uh-huh.
Grauer, what a guy. Wonderful man. He told me a very funny story. He told me, he says, you see this cross I'm wearing? It's a mezuzah with a pair of handlebars. He had me laughing all the time. We were good friends. I got his book. He wrote a book. I have it. And so we got him down to southern Italy onto the Exodus, We got some supplies from them, and we took off to get our people. And we got 750 in the Porta Veneta in Italy, and the next day 750 on what they call lighters. They brought them out on these big rafts, 750 people. And we put them on the ship, and we headed for Palestine, for the homeland.
Now, was this the first time that you had seen refugees, Holocaust
First time I
refugees?
saw my people.
Yeah.
When they came on board the ship, I was straddling the gunnels and lifting them up with all they own, they carry with them. And and there was my mother, my sister, my brother, my family. These are my people, and I'm saving them. What a feeling. That was the greatest feeling I ever had, of rescuing my people. I was going to help my people. And we got 750 first night by little rubber rafts to the shore. And the next day on large lighters they brought out some, and they would put them on board the ship. We stuck them into these little slots with all they own, and we headed for Palestine. The British send out an airplane looking for you. You get buzzed. When you finish getting buzzed, 4 magnificent warships come out and surround you. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Destroyers that could blow you out of the water like nothing. And they could do 35 knots, those ships. We did 12 maybe. They surrounded us, and eventually they come up alongside you like a nutcracker, and two destroyers hit you from both sides, and they board us. When they boarded the Exodus, they killed my good buddy Bill Bernstein.
How'd you know Bill?
From he went to school in the Merchant Marine Academy right out here, it's just outside here. You can almost see it from my window. And he went to school there with my best buddy Abby Rosenberg, who was my first engineer. The chief was High Brahman. He was his best friend from school, so we all knew each other, especially on the ship. And the British killed him in the wheelhouse. He wouldn't give it up. So they went in, they bombed him to death, and then shot him. But they killed a couple of refugees on the Exodus, not on my ship. My ship, they just beat us up pretty good and took the ship and put us. That night I was made into a DP. I became a DP, displaced person. And the British took us to Cyprus. No, they took us into Haifa. Haifa, they put us on prison ships. All the ships, when they were captured, there was 12 of them. There's a book written about it by Murray Greenfield called The Jews' Secret Fleet. And he wrote this book, Murray, about...
One second.
Just a minute. Okay.
Okay. The British had come, they'd captured you guys, and now they were taking you to Haifa?
In Haifa, there's a pier there that they used to use to take the people. I became a DP at that time. Of course, they were looking for the crew. The crew would get 9 years in jail if we were caught from the British, we were told. So I became a displaced person, and I was with the people, and we went on a prison ship from Haifa to Cyprus.
So you knew that if there was something like this happened, you had to mix together with the rest of
the people. In fact, I fell asleep that night when the British took us. The British captured the ship. I woke up in the morning, my shoes were changed. Of course, my shoes had oil on them. And the kid who wore my shoes was arrested by he was a real DP, displaced person, and a Mapilim, they call him Mapilim. And he was captured, and he had in his pocket, he told me after, in the prison camp, he had pictures from Romania. The name of the photo studio was the Hollywood Studios. So they surely knew he was from America. But he wasn't, and they let him go. But he was wearing my shoes, he got caught. They changed my clothes on me. I had completely different clothes. Nothing else, no ID papers, nothing at that point. And
Were there, when you left the United States, it was an entirely American crew, or were there any Palestinian?
no, there was all Americans. I'm just trying to remember. On the ship was I'm trying to remember. All the captain, everybody was American.
But did you have like?
We had a real captain. A real captain. Yeah, you have to. No ship leaves the port without a real captain. And he signed the ship out, and he got off the ship. But we got into, I'm trying to remember whether it was, not the Azores. That's where we got fuel. But in Lisbon, he got off, and we had our own. Hal Katz became captain of the Hatikva. Yeah.
Did you have like Haganah or
Oh yeah, there was always a representative coming on board.
But they only joined you in Lisbon.
In Lisbon, that's the first time we saw them.
Do you remember their names? Any of their names?
Yeah, Captain Brilliant. His real name was Diamond. We called him Brilliant, but his real name was Captain Diamond. That's his real family name was Dimon, Diamond. And we call him Brilliant. And he came, I told you, he came on board the ship to get us the hell out of port because the British caught wise in Lisbon. But we already finished outfitting the ship. So we took off and we left for Europe from Lisbon. And we picked up clandestinely this Father Grauer. And we brought him down to Italy and put him on the Exodus.
Now you are now in Haifa, and they're putting you on these prison ships.
Correct. And
what were those like? What were those ships like?
They were horrific. They were old like cargo vessels, and we were in the hold. We were put down below, all of us, like animals. The British put us down in the hold, then put us to Cyprus, and in Cyprus, they marched us out to the prison camps that are there. They're there now. They're still there. There's an organization today in Cyprus. I just found out about last year. The president of Cyprus goes with them all over the world, and they talk about how the British had prison camps on Cyprus, and we were there. So there were a couple of different camps. There was a summer camp, a winter camp, all kind of different. What's that? Oh, no.
Cyprus.
You're in Cyprus. The summer camp, the winter camp.
Yeah. The summer camp, I met an Irishman there who kept sneaking us out to swim because it was hot. It was summertime. This is April. Incidentally, I don't know if I told you, but when we were in Lisbon, we were tied up next to a British tugboat. And the British guy said to us, "Hey, Yanks, we hear there's a Jew ship in port. Help us look for it." We told him we surely will. Lovely. It was Passover, and we're making a Seder in Lisbon. I'm going back to Lisbon for a moment. And we invite them for drinks because they're right with us. The two ships are together on the pier. And they said, "Boy, you guys, what's happening?" I said, "It's the captain's birthday." They said, "You know how to celebrate." It was Pesach. That's such a wonderful Seder. Anyway, let's go back. We're heading for Cyprus. And we're in Cyprus, and the British drop us off in Famagusta, I think it was called. I'm trying to remember the name of the port there. Larnaca, Famagusta. It's been a while. It's been 90 years. Anyway, 70 years. So we wound up in a prison camp. In the prison camp, the Palestinian or Palmach underground smuggled gelignite in, and we were bringing it in under the camp thing because we were going to blow up the British ships. And we did.
Wait, who was running the camps? Who was in charge in the camps?
The British.
The British, but did you have like
Army.
did you
British
have your
Army.
own
Oh, we had our own government. Well, the people were clannish, I would say. The Polish Jews were one part of the camp, Russian Jews, not so much of a Polish, Hungarian, Romanian, all, but everybody spoke Yiddish. So that was, besides their regular native tongue, Yiddish was the common language.
Did you speak Yiddish at home when you were growing up?
My father never spoke a word of English. And he spoke Yiddish to me only. And so that was, that saved my life, because the British, when they questioned me coming into Cyprus, my buddy Abby, I told you about Abby, and he was a Navy officer, American Navy, and he couldn't be there. If he was, he'd lose his commission, he'd lose his money, everything. He'd be wiped out. So I gave him to the British guy, the Yiddish and British, they said to us, he said to me in Yiddish, what's your name? What's your name? I told my name is Pesach for Paul. Pesach Bruder. And this is my breeder, Avrum Bruder, Abby, Avrum. So the British guy says, why doesn't he talk for himself? So I don't understand English. So he says to me in Yiddish, so I said to him, the lager. I learned from the people, that's the most dreaded thing in the concentration camp, was the lockup, the lager. So he looks over to the British guy, he says, he hasn't spoken a word in the last 10 months. The British guy starts to cry and walks out of the room. The Yiddish Jewish guy jumps up to us and says, what's the nomen is Bruder? Not my Yiddish nomen, like Rosenberg. Abby says, no, that's my real name. We couldn't stop laughing. And that's all what happened. So anyway, we wound up in Cyprus that way. Otherwise, we couldn't get in. The British would have locked us up. They put us in jail. But anyway, now we smuggle the gelinite in, and now we're being let go from Cyprus. They had $750 a month from Cyprus, or $1,500. I forget the number, but it's quite a few. Was a quota system the British gave to Jews from Cyprus and from Atlit. So you went from Cyprus to Atlit, and from Atlit to Palestine. So here we are smuggling the gelinite in, and one little Russian girl, Bootsy.
And wait, and you're being
I'm
taken.
in Cyprus.
You're being taken again on a prison ship.
I'm being put back on the prison ship back to Haifa to go to Atlit. And they sneak us in. We sneak the gelinite onto the prison ship. How do you do that? Different methods. Bottomless suitcases. And there's a little Russian girl, Bootsy, I never forget her. And Moshe, who's in charge of the whole operation, says, Bootsy, you can't take that bag. If they catch you, they'll hang you. I never forget, she turns around, she says to us, I have a chance to work for my new country coming on. I'm going to do it. And she goes to pick up her bag, which has a false bottom to it with gelinite in it, and a British woman soldier, sergeant, runs over, Bootsy, you're going to your homeland. The guy upstairs is working down. Let me take your luggage, your bags. And she picks up all the bags with the gelinite and brings it on the ship for us. And Moshe's looking, and his mouth opens up, and then he says, Paul, there's a bag up on top of the where they keep the prisoners full of gelinite. I'd like to get it down. I said, leave it to me. I started to cry to the British guy, and I told him, my bag is going to fall in the water. But in Yiddish, I talked to him. So he pulls the bag off, gives it to me, and I carry it on board the ship. Things go your way. We get into Haifa port, set the timer for the bomb in the bottom of the. We're in the bottom of the ship. We're all in the bottom, so that's perfect because that's what you want to sink the ship, from the bottom. And we put the gelinite on the bottom, and all of a sudden we hear up above the anchor going down, because every ship in the world, when it comes into port, the Border Health has to approve it. Every ship in the world. The Border Health of that country has to approve the ship for no disease. So I hear it. I says, Moish, he says, reset the timer. He says, Paul, when they taught me how to set the timer, they never taught me how to reset it. So now the thing is ticking. We're all on board. All of a sudden, I hear the anchor going up. We go ashore with the ship. We make everybody get off quickly, off, and they all get off the ship fast. And I was one of the last ones off. I hear boom, and the ship goes down. And a British guy hollering, fire in the hole. That means there's danger. And I never forget that. And I walk off with the people, and that's the last of the prison ships that they used, the British used. We stopped them because of that. And the reason we did that, we blew the ship, is because Bevan, who was the head of England in those days, told Truman that he's taken the people from the Exodus, there was what, 4,500 or something, he's taken them into Cyprus. He put them on prison ships and brought them back to Germany. Truman got angry, and then fought to the UN to make a state for the state of Israel. That was instrumental in making Truman vote for the state of Israel, the Exodus type of thing. It was quite a thing. But those were the days in those days. Things were happening all around us. And I escaped from Athlete under the fence.
Wait, so now they took everybody into Athlete.
We all went to Athlete.
Okay.
And I was in a prison camp for 2
What
weeks.
was it like when you came into Athlete?
It was like walking into a prison camp. Fence. You can go there today. I helped make a museum out of that many years ago. I forget the guy's name who was in charge of that. I helped him. And we have pictures of guys sitting playing cards. You saw some of the pictures. And we escaped under the fence of Athlete. And I was picked up by the Palmach in a private taxi and brought to Haifa. And there we got papers, fake papers, you know. I wound up in Haifa with working for the underground. And I have to stop with that.
So that you stay. How long did you stay in Palestine?
In Palestine, I stayed about 3 weeks. I wound up in Marseille on a Greek ship, the SS Teti. I never forget the name of the ship. I can't remember my own name, but I remember the name of that ship because they snuck us on, and we sailed as passengers, and it was really a very lovable trip. I went to Marseille, and as I was boarding the ship, a pair of arms come over me past the British customs and put a suitcase, a valise there, and there's papers in there. And as I'm walking towards the ship with this new bag that I got, a guy whispers to me, when you get to Marseille, he gave me the name of a restaurant, and order a certain dish, which he told me what it was. I forget what it was. Something like bacon and eggs or some kind of a dish. And he says, just wait. So I went to, my ship landed in Marseille, we went to that restaurant, and I ordered a dish, and the guy comes out, takes my suitcase, and I worked in Marseille for about a month, 2 months, and headed back.
Doing what?
Tracking ships for the underground, Arab ships that were bringing munitions to them. They were getting ready for war, and we had to see what was going in, how much they were getting, and who, you know, just to track ship. I was going out with a young lady who worked in the, I met her, she worked in the telegram office. And in the telegram office in Marseille, in France, the telegram office is the telephone office, the telegraph office, the news office, everything is out of that one main office. She could tell me every ship that went in and out, and I was able to tell the underground. We got a lot of good information. It was helpful. And I wound up getting on a plane in Marseille. No, I went by train from Marseille to Paris. And in Paris, I got on a plane. I'm trying to remember. I got on a plane and headed back to the States. When I came home, I was going to go back to school. You know, the war hadn't started yet. We didn't have a state yet. We're just getting a state now. And the state was becoming an entity. And B.G. Ben Gurion, I used to go to his home once in a while, he sent me a note, come on back into the service. So I didn't go to school then, but I came back on another ship. First I had 5 sub-chases in America, 3 in Brooklyn, 2 in Tampa. None of them left. The American government would not allow them to go to Palestine, to Israel. And it was becoming a state. So I got on a ship in New York, an old Hudson River dayliner. And the SS Director, we had a Panamanian flag on her, and we sailed her across. Captain Ash was in charge of all New York port, and he was one of us. And he would help me put the crew together and everything. Terrific guy. And we wound up with that ship going across the Atlantic, picking up, I think, 1,500 people in Marseille. I think I picked those out, and I don't remember, to tell you the truth. And we wound up, the British was about to capture us, but they were gone. It became a state. So we put up a flag. We put up an Israeli flag the first time. And it was one of the first merchant ships. Now I'm on the ship, we're unloading our people. My friend Hal Feinberg from my first ship comes on board. Big hiya Hal, hiya Paul. He says, you know, you're in a merchant marine here. Join the Israeli Navy with me. I said, sure, I'd love to. So I have to make one more trip. I had to go to Barry Islands, pick up 1,500 more people, and then come back. And when I unloaded him, he was waiting on the pier for me and got me, and I had a job waiting for me in Israel. I was in charge of the Haifa port. What a job. I wound up going with Hal onto his Jeep. I grabbed my bag, I told the skipper I'm gone. He knew about it, and I made another trip. I was an engineering officer, third engineer. Anyway, I was a second engineer on the Galila.
What was the name of the ship, the Hebrew name?
Galila.
Uh-huh.
Yes, there's Galila, and that's in 48 now. And that's with an Israeli flag. It was fantastic. And I wind up going into Hal's Jeep, and we're driving up the coast of Israel to Caesarea. I said, Hal, where's the ships? He says, you're in the Israeli Navy, and you're now a Navy SEAL. Shayetes Losasari. I says, a Navy SEAL? I didn't know how to swim. I was a kid. I says, I can't swim. He says, don't worry. He put a pair of fins on me, took my clothes. It was a beautiful day. And in Caesarea, there's a tile pool built for Cleopatra. And it's there. And he walks me down into the pool with a pair of goggles. It's so beautiful. I became a SEAL. And that was how I became one of the Shayetet. In fact, I'm still going to dinner with them to this very day. This next month we have a dinner in Manhattan with the Shayetet. They're very much at work. Let's put it that way. We just saw recently on the news guys coming out of the air and dropping on that ship that was coming. Right.
Yeah.
That was my boys. So they're in athlete. Akshav Hayom is about, and now it's an athlete. When I go to Israel, I visit the camp, you know, and my pictures in there. We have a museum there. Yochai Ben-Nun was my mifaked, my commander. He and I were very close friends. His real name was Fishman. He came from Haifa. I used to stay in his home. And he sailed in the War of Independence. He had a special unit in our unit. We were swimmers. He was on a small boat that was a torpedo, and he would aim it for the enemy ship in the port, pull the handle, drop him off the back, and the little is a bomb, is a torpedo, and the boat goes and blows up the other ship.
Farouk.
Huh?
Farouk.
He sunk the Farouk.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, wonderful. He soaked that. Yeah. And you know how when he soaked the Farouk, what happened? His foot got caught on the boat, on the rope, and he was being dragged with the ship. And all of a sudden, from heaven, the rope broke, and he swam back to us.
Yeah. Amazing.
So these are, you see miracles happening around you. It's amazing, just amazing. And that's Yochai Benun. And they just named a street for him in Haifa, Benun, Rehov Benun. And of course you know about the Exodus of what do you call monument is just put up in Haifa. Chashuv is brand new. And I was supposed to go for it, I didn't go. And what else they have now? They have the next month, the Machal Memorial. The word Machal mitnavei chutz la'aretz. It's a Hebrew acronym. It stands for those who came from outside to fight for the country. And of course, the organization is not a
Okay.
really. Go ahead, Donna.
No, the clock was.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. Go
That's
ahead.
a half hour.
Yeah.
And Yochai was my mifaked, and Moshe Nachshon. He used the word Nachshon. His real Yochai Benun, Moshe Nachshon. I'm trying to remember some of the names. The guy who's still around in Haifa, you want to say hello to him, is Berola, and he is oh boy, I gave his name before.
Dov Shafir.
Tov Shafir, Nachon. Yeah, he works for the big drug company. What's it called?
Teva.
Teva. He's on the board of Teva. His father-in-law left him a seat on the board. And we were on the phone just last week. We always talk.
Do you
Every
know?
13th we talk.
Do you know a guy, Izzy Rav?
I know the name. I don't know him.
Okay.
No. Izzy Rob, yeah. Izzy, the only Izzy, Ike Aronowitz,
Do you know Ike?
my buddy, my drinking partner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he lived in Haifa. Yeah, up in the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and I were very good friends, good buddies. A lot of these guys, we had like a whole clique, and we do certain things. And when I came home, the State Department and the FBI quizzed me. They took my passport away. I couldn't have a passport, and I went back to college.
Well, how long did you stay?
In Israel?
Yeah.
About 3 years.
3
Two and a
years.
half- 2.5 years.
Oh wow.
Huh?
Until what?
Until
Until.
1949, 50 I guess it was, 50 or 51. And I came back, I wanted my college degree, and Uncle Sam was going to pay for me. So I'm on an airplane coming home, and a guy sits down next to me and says, Paul, we want you to study phys ed. I'm an engineer. What do you mean? He says, you're going to study phys ed. You're going to travel with the Olympic team, and you're going to be in charge of searching out Nazis all over the world on the Olympic team, the Israeli Olympic team. But you have to be an athlete. I used to play baseball with the Brooklyn Dodgers farm system. So I went back.
What'd you play?
I played, I forget now, I played second base. So I had some friends with the Dodgers. Anyway, I said, if that's my orders, I do it, you know. And that's how I found out about Truman and all that, you know. I wound up with the underground. You know where the underground was in New York during the whole thing? The Copacabana, the nightclub. Upstairs, the owner of the Copacabana was one of Unzer's. And when I say Unzer, he was Jewish. And he used to hide the guys there. And they used to send all their orders out from the Copa. And then there was an office in the main building of New York City down in the Federal Building. And I wound up there, and I walked in, Moshe, he said, Paul, wait a minute, I'm talking to your boss. Who's my boss? He was talking to Truman. I couldn't stop laughing, you know, coming out of the American Navy, you know. So he was my commander-in-chief. So they took away my passport, they took away my last name was Kamenetsky, Russian name, Kamenetsky. And I stayed with Kamenetsky until I finished college. And when I finished college, and I had a job waiting for me in Wingate Institute, Herzliya. And I have a teaching, and I would be traveling with the Olympic team all over the world, searching out Nazis. And the rest is all not to be discussed.
Where'd you go to college?
NYU,
Mm-hmm.
right here in New York. It was terrific. I loved it. I had such a good time at college. Imagine going to school in the village.
Yeah.
I went to high school there.
Oh, right.
Chelsea High School's down there.
And when did you go back then? So did you go to Wingate?
I got the job there, and the rest, nothing. I never worked there, never,
But you went back to Israel.
in those days,
Yeah.
just very quickly,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Yeah, not really. I went, but I didn't.
Okay.
I wound up here, working in I opened up my own business. I worked for the Philco Corporation, that's what I forget. Philco hired me as a salesman,
Mm-hmm.
and they taught me how to be an electronic salesperson. That's what I did. For all intents and purposes, I was an electronic salesman for Philco Corporation.
Here.
Here,
Uh-huh.
in New York,
Okay.
right.
And then, at what point? I mean, were you still traveling there or back, or when did you
I stayed in New York, I got married.
got married? When did you get married?
When I graduated college, the professor called me in and said, Paul, the FBI is signing you up as an agent because they're opening up the ranks. In order to become an FBI man in those days, or I don't know, maybe still today, you have to be a CPA or pass the bar. They opened it up for a phys ed degree to teach their personnel in the training camps how to operate physically. And they wanted me as an instructor in the FBI. I couldn't refuse them. I can't tell them I'm going to work in the Israeli underground. I told them, let me check into it. And someone told me I was getting married. You can't become married and join the FBI. When I heard that, I was out nice and clean, no problems. I got married. I married a young Brooklyn girl. I was in the Bronx. It was like traveling overseas, going to Brooklyn.
Okay.
I got married.
And
My new wife did not want to live in Israel. So we lived in Brooklyn in her parents' home for a while, and we made children, and what I did was strictly working for the Philco Corporation. That's where it stays. That's it. And today she changed the name to Kaye, K-A-Y-E. She put an E on the end. It's Scotch-Irish is E. K-A-Y is not. She made it K-A-Y-E. She was a concert pianist, and we went to college together. That's how we met. She was at NYU in the music department. And we went to the children's camp. Beysid?
is there something? Why do you think it's important that people hear the stories about the Americans' involvement, or what do you want to say about the role that American Jews played in the founding of Israel?
Very important, because the first question I was asked stuck with me all the way through. You want to help your people. All over the world we lost 6 million to the Nazis. In America today, where things change, they stay the same. We have anti-Semitism today in the college campus for the kids. It breaks my heart. There's an organization in Manhattan called Fuel for Fire. You should look into young kids. Well, they're young kids, they're college grads. And they, non-political, for the growth of Israel. Fuel for Fire. And I've spoken for them. They've called me back 3 times already. And they're terrific. But they believe in a strong Israel. And that's what we need. And we need that here in this country, in our country, in America. We need it here. Because the amount of anti-Semitism that persists on the college campus is horrific. It doesn't belong here. It's not our way of thinking. That's why when these guys don't want to kneel in the football games, these pros, because they feel pressured, you know, I give them respect. That's how they feel. And you have to respect the person's feeling. But the anti-Semitism, there's just no room for it in the world. Jewish people give so much. The Israeli government, medical attention. My first wife was a vice president at Hadassah. Susan belongs to Hadassah. That's so important for us. All these different things, you know. And why? It says you want to help your people. You gotta help. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And that's the reason. And of course, with anti-Semitism on the increase, it becomes extremely important. That's why I say Israel is so important to us. Very important.
You have any regrets?
I thought I didn't spend more time, yeah. That's the only regret I have, is I didn't give enough time. I had to do certain, because my new wife, with children, we have 2 children, to raise children, I learned new things. And I love them, you know. I'm still with them. I speak to them almost every day, my children. Yeah, they have children. I got my first great-grandson this last week. 10 months. 11 months.
Milestone.
Yeah, thank you. Great-grandson.
אולי פספסתי בזמן שהלכתי לגבי חייתה בזמן השואה. אני יודע. אני חושב שהוא הבין מה שקרה. שאלת?
No. Do you remember going back a little bit? Do you remember the first time hearing about the Holocaust when you were living here?
Yeah, I didn't believe it. I had family who was being killed. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was going on. Because my first cousin, my father's brother's son, was an officer in the Belgian army. And we used to write each other letters and communicate by writing. And he got killed before the war as the war started, as an officer in the Belgian army. So it's affected me immediately. But I didn't understand what it was. And I never knew the amount that these people did to us over that short period of time, and the way they did it.
But if we're looking about from 39 to 45, when you think the time that you realize what's happening in Europe, it's after the...
After.
Only after?
Only after.
Okay.
I didn't know what was going on. Only after, when I found out my people were in trouble. When you want to help your people, and I find out that they're living in camps. I was going to the Pacific to fight a war. When I joined the Navy, Hitler surrendered. He heard I was coming. And then I was heading for the Pacific. I got hurt, but I continued, and then I wound up in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't know about the Holocaust, the depth of it, until after. Okay, Beysseider?
Yeah. Do you want to? What do you want? With the pictures and the...
Yes.
How do you want to?
Yeah.
How do you want to do it?
Can you please put that on? Okay.
This is the actual beret.
Oh, that's nice.
This is my actual beret.
Let me just... Oh, it's beautiful. Just a minute, please.
See, there's what they call scrambled eggs on top of the front. That's a full captain.
Okay. Great.
That's what's sent to me by the Chevra.
Yeah, we got it. Okay, which picture we...
Well, he has his papers from...
They're up on top. No. Yeah, I think it's there too. I'm not sure.
Okay. So
No,
first,
that's actually.
So first, this is your papers from when you were...
Yeah, I wouldn't take a picture of that. Put it away.
Okay.
I don't want some guy in the State Department waking up one morning and coming after me now. I don't need it. No, up there. See, look up there. Up there.
No,
You're not listening.
all the way over
Up
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Can you please hold it? Yeah. Just a minute.
Pretty steady for an old guy, huh?
All right. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Shayetet.
Right.
Americans. 4 Americans in the Shayetet.
רק תצביע איפה...
Yeah, so you're,
Just put
you're,
pin, איך הוא יעשה להצביע?
point to,
Point,
you're, which one? You're the one over here?
That's me. Lower right hand corner.
Great. Okay, I got it. This
Say
is for
that?
history, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone have to know that. Thank you. Thank
Yo,
you very
thank you. Okay, חבר'ה.
כן. רק אולי פורטרט אחד, ציור.
That's me, yeah.
Let's put it. So,
This is in Lisbon, 1947.
oh,
You know how I'm so smart?
yeah.
It's written on the back.
Okay.
You say
Got
that?
it. Yes, great.
I'll show you something in the other room hanging on the wall.
Okay. Just a minute. שים לו את זה בכיס, רגע, אני
Oh, yeah.
כן,
Oh,
אני אקליט את מה שהוא אומר
I'll
בחדר.
put it by paper.
Hold on, just a minute before you go.
I'll have to put all this stuff away. You guys have really give me some work to do. This is Captain Brilliant right here. This is Israeli. The first Israeli.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what you want to ask in the other room. Yeah.
Want to show something in the other room?
Yeah.
All right.
That was made by Sonny Weintraub, my radio operator from the Hatikva. And this is by Yossi Stern, the artist. See, to Paul Kaye,
Yeah.
from Admiral Yossi Stern, 1974. And this last week, they just put this up in the shul. That's what I wanted to show you. I think there's something else. I don't know. These are my family. They're the kids. The kinder. I don't know. I guess I got more stuff, but I don't know whether.
Did you know Ruth Gruber?
Oh, very well. She was my dear friend.
Yeah.
I used to talk to her very often. Ruth and I were very close friends. She lived to 105.
I know, amazing.
We used to have a lot of fun together. We were good friends.
You met her already
After the Exodus.
after the Exodus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The photographer, yeah, or Gruber, yeah.
Journal,
No, she wrote books.
journalist.
Yeah.
I
She's a
show you,
journalist. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called, here, his Father Growl's book.
Uh-huh. What about who?
One Ruth's book?
No, when you were in the farm team for the Dodgers. Anybody go on to make?
Oh, most of the guys.
Yeah.
They were all pretty popular, yeah.
Did you know who was? Any
I
of
knew
the-
some of them, yeah.
Nice.
I didn't get too much involved with them. I was busy doing other things. But I love playing baseball. Oh, yeah.